what I'm saying is that this is lucid dreaming right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like the more aware you are, right?
But what is driven by the ego? What are you saying is driven by the ego? That we have control?
That one, yes. That one we control. One, we are not connected. We are one single being that has nothing to do with what you're doing or you're doing or you're doing.
Why it goes deeper than what we're trying to interpret literally or by ego, right?
And I would love for the listeners, if anybody knows this actually,
that we control.
I know is like, where did the ego come from? Because it's doing something to protect the physical body. Is it a protection mechanism so that you stay inside the 3D reality, inside the gravity? So then where did it come from? Welcome back to another episode of Remember You, where 4 voices come together to take you to a journey, not a destination. You've done all the work, watched the podcast, read the books, done everything, and now it's time for integration. We love you guys. Thanks for listening and enjoy the journey.
Okay, so our episode today is going to be a little unusual because we're going to talk about the power and importance of having community when it comes to exploring your spirituality and dreams, intuition, and like interpreting maybe things that you don't see in your everyday normal life and maybe what that looks like. And I'm going to kick it off with a story of kind of some of the really intense dreams that I have started to have over the last like 5 or 6 years, and how initially these dreams were like really alarming to me. It was like really intense and definitely felt different than like a normal, like, you know, a dream that you have when you're sleeping, and how I kind of harbored that for a while before I found a community to start sharing these ideas with, and then kind of how I feel about that today. So is that a good summary?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So this is definitely a good episode for anyone who identifies as super intuitive, an empath, or highly sensitive person. So I would say growing up for me, I was always like had a really, really high level of intuition. An example I always tell people is my mom was running out to go to the doctor. I was like, 7 or 8. And she said she's going to the doctor because she was pregnant at the time, and to make sure the baby was okay. And she said, I ran out the door and I said, but Mom, what if there's 2 babies in there? And then she went and found out that she was pregnant with twins. And so little things like that were always happening for me as a little kid. And my mom and dad, at the time, my parents are pretty open-minded, but just thought it was like cute. It's like, oh, that's cool. And then during times be like, that's creepy, but kids kind of do that, they're more or less programmed, more awake.
Well, they're on a different brain wavelength. So up until you're 7 or 8, you're on a different wavelength of your brain capacity, which is why you can learn so fast. And you're tapped into what I call the higher consciousness so that you can learn faster.
That's awesome.
And then you have more intuition. And so you knew that. And instead of celebrating, they kind of thought, oh, that's cute. That's a little weird that she knew that. And then when you don't get like good reinforcement, you start to shut that down.
Yes, it's so well said. And I think so many people can relate to that. Having like a sixth sense or a gut feeling or any like intuitive hit, in a situation like, oh, I shouldn't go to that party. I don't know why, but I'm just feeling like extreme dread. Then you don't go and you find out that like something really bad happened later. I think this is also something we all have. I don't think I'm special and unique. I think it's something that it's like a skill that you can turn on and you can harness and sharpen through a variety of different things. But I really hated this natural thing that was in me pretty young and did everything I could to turn it off. So I just wanted to be normal. I just wanted to fit in. I just wanted to, not have to deal with this, like these sensitivities I was always having. And I didn't have a community. So I didn't have anyone. It wasn't normal. Again, my parents, I'm really lucky. They were super open-minded, but they just kind of didn't think anything of it. So I kind of went the totally opposite route, which I think is similar to your story as well, or is just like, if it's not science, like it's not real. And that provides a lot of security. And science is amazing. And I think there's not one or the other, it's always both. But I went down that path and did a lot of numbing, throughout the journey. I think a lot of us experience that too during a season of, kind of figuring out who you are. I was like heavy drinker, huge partier, workaholic, all of the things, anything I could do to like block out any feelings, or especially what we'll talk about today, which is dreams. And so eventually I kind of just, from a health perspective, made that transformation to start taking better care of myself, and ultimately taking better care of yourself, you get more in touch with yourself. And then for me, being in touch with myself is being in touch with spirituality and kind of these different things. And so having maybe 5 or 6 years ago, really being able to start looking at these different gifts or, skill of intuition and things like that with a different perspective, and then saying yes to it. And then now all of a sudden at that time, I think it's 5 years ago. Oh gosh, no, I'm older now. Maybe six or 7 years ago, I started to attract people who are on the same like frequency, as I would like to say, and people who are speaking my language. And I didn't have to hide as much, but it made it really obvious, people that you learn who you can have these conversations with or not. And again, it's an intuitive feeling. Yeah. Like right when I meet someone, there's certain things they'll say and I'm like, that's not the person who's not that it's like, I need to hide, it's just not going to resonate with them. So finding community was super helpful. But the big thing for me that kept coming through was these really, really intense dreams. And not dreams like, oh, I was like, dreaming that I was back in college and I was late for my tests, and like, like anxiety dreams that are normal, we all have, but dreams of me being like an alien on another planet, helping like take down like a bad person with like a village of people, or like breaking people out of like a really bad situation. Really unusual dreams that you wake up from and you're like, which one is reality? And that is where it started to get, I don't want to say the word scary, but just like, okay, like, what do I do with this? Like, who do I talk to about this? You were going to say something.
Yeah, no, I keep going.
Oh God. I was like, please interject.
I was going to say something. So the dream, what we don't talk about a lot is that dreams are a reality. So dreams, I believe, whether they're waking dreams, lucid dreams, where you're half awake, half asleep, a little bit deeper than a hypnosis state, those are reality. We're just not tapped in to understand what those downloads are. We have to get into aligned with our intuition and with our higher consciousness, all these things. And because people aren't allowed to talk about this, or I guess alloud's a bad word, but people tend to not get into deep discussions. Most people, when they're sitting around Christmas dinner or whatever, they're not talking about some weird dreams that they had.
Unfortunately.
Some vision. Right. They're talking about the weather and like so-and-so's sick and this person got in the hospital. And, it's all this like negative things. And it's what keeps our consciousness rooted into this reality that we're in right now. And so it's important, and to take away from this podcast today, that it's okay to talk about these things, that it's natural and normal, and we all have these things because we're all connected. And at what level do you have them is the question. So if you're really shut down and you're stuck in your reality of, I go to my 9-to-5 job, I have my family, I talk about the weather, I talk about sports, and I watch the news, you're in a low energy level of consciousness. And it would be really hard to talk about a dream that you're breaking people out of bubbles to get them out of the programming from the matrix, that then people at that level would be like, you're nuts. Have you seen that Trump took over Venezuela?
Yes. Yes. Well, and it's not, I think that even before getting into any details, because one idea just came to mind to give a really good example of like how odd these dreams have been. But I think a big takeaway is to normalize, like if you're having intuitive or spiritual experiences, to Michelle, what Michelle was saying before we started, is that you don't have to be afraid of it.
Yes.
And you can just observe it and you can write it down. You can witness it. You can put it into Chat GPT to like read into the symbolism, but you don't need to run away from it or be afraid of it.
Right.
I think it's the biggest takeaway.
Yes.
And I think what's so important is that we've been programmed to think that we should not talk about dreams, we should not pay attention to them, that they don't have any meaning. And the fact is that they do.
Mm-hmm.
And then your downloads during the day have meaning, and intuition have meaning. So you're supposed to pay attention to your body. You're supposed to pay attention to your dreams. And I didn't know this till like recently, and it's not because, he talks about symbolism. I hear about symbolism now because when everyone's having dreams, we're thinking it's literal and it's not.
No.
And we don't know symbolism. So I have to put it into Chat GPT to get the spiritual, whatever symbolism from it, because I wouldn't have interpreted it the way that Chat GPT is able to for me.
Yeah, because it's taking all the information that
Right.
it knows and it's pulling from all the sources
Yeah.
and then giving you what it would take you a lot longer to go
Right,
and
to
Google
research all this.
Yeah.
At least to look up a dream dictionary, look up the word, whatever. But you can really get the symbolism, the meaning, and you can be guided by your dreams and your downloads during the day. And this can be something that people can be talking about instead of what's going on in the world.
Then you can, it's like you could, like, feeling safe to have these conversations can then bring you so much relief and like safety. And like, it was like before we started this episode, I was like, all right, I got to tell you guys some crazy shit that just happened to me, where I was like having a daydream basically while we were talking. And I've never had that happen to me before. And it was like, no one rejected me. No one thought it was like crazy. They were just like, oh, cool, let's figure this out. Like, let's talk about it. And it's like the immediate relief and like just excitement, to like have that. It's like, that's what we want to create for anyone that's listening, is like that level of community and that sense of togetherness when you're exploring things that maybe aren't super mainstream. Because I think that's what's missing. And I think that's kind of what you were saying before too.
I think you have to think about the power of that ability to tap into that. It's so insane.
Yeah. Well, I was going to give you guys an example that came to me while you were talking, which seems like I'm supposed to say it, was right before I worked at Gaia. So I guess it's almost 6 years ago now. And my background professionally is marketing. And so I was working in like different corporate jobs and was able to get an interview at a company called Gaia. And it was amazing. It's like a streaming company with a lot of these topics. And during the interview process, I was visiting my family at home and I had my first daydream, kind of what I'm talking about, where I was up at our condo in Wisconsin. It was in the middle of the day and I was just like, I don't even know what I was doing, but it was just like, you ever seen like That's So Raven? Do you remember that? Like where she's like has like a thing, like her eyes like get really big and it's like she's getting like a big download. That's kind of like, it's like an internet meme. But anyways, that's what it was. And the download and the dream was that I was in like on a lake that was like so clear and still that it looked like glass. And I was in a boat and I was just like paddling and I was just like, but it was like I was there. Like I transported from my house in Wisconsin to wherever this place was in like waking consciousness. Mm-hmm. And as I'm like sitting in this boat, the super still water, this like purple being like bursts through the water and puts their hands, which were like webbed, onto the boat and looked at me in the eyes, didn't say any words, like speaking telepathically. And we're just saying, we really need your help. Like, please, you need to come and help us. And I was like, wow, this is so crazy. And then it was just like, they went away. I felt totally safe, like in the whole thing, but it was just like super unusual. And then snap back to me being in Wisconsin in the condo. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, wow, that was so weird, but cool, And like, I've never had that. So then I go back to Colorado and I get the job. And the first day that I like walk on site, that purple being was on a mural that's right in the entryway. Mm-hmm. And so it was like, and I was only at Gaia for like I think like 2 years, mm-hmm. but I don't really know what any of that meant, but it was just like, okay, now I'm paying attention. Like maybe it didn't mean anything. Maybe it was just to get me to like start connecting some dots or like paying attention.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I had a similar experience.
Yeah.
There was, I was doing like a meditation at night, and just this like download of a being like came like flashed in front of my mind. I was just like, I recognized it as this like alien character on Rick and Morty.
Yeah.
But it was like just so random and so like intense, and it wasn't like a fleeting thought. It was like an entrance of something. It was just like, it was there. And then I just went, okay, that's interesting. And it just kind of stuck with me. And as I went about my day, it was the next day or two, I was going over to Costco, and I came walking out, and I ran into this guy that I've known for years and haven't seen him in years. And I ran into him like, hey, how you doing? And he's like, oh, I do this, this, and this. And he ends up, he's running an organization for alien disclosure. I'm like, I got to talk to you about this. Like, I saw this thing last night or the day before. It came to mind. It was like, it just showed up, and he's like, go to my website. So I got his card. I was like, just such a cool interaction.
It's like, how is that not connected?
And it was like, so I go the next day, I look up his website, and I'm scrolling through, and I see the exact alien
I got chills.
caricature on his website. I was just like, what?
Yeah.
I sent him a screen capture. I'm like, what is this? He goes, oh, that's an Arcturian. He's like, get in contact with this guy. He helps the channel.
I was told mine was an Andromedan,
right?
Which is like what other people.
So hold on, wait. This is really deep.
Oh yeah,
For a lot of people,
sorry.
This is going to be, they're lost. So can you tell us what these two, they're star seeds, right?
Yeah. So it's like, the idea here is that you're connected to all other alien races out there that exist. And there's like, you can't even count, apparently, right?
Do they call them star seeds though, most people?
I think so. I think so. Yeah, I think there's different terms for it. Like, the best way I've heard it described is like, you're a part of all, but what in this state of consciousness do you identify with most? So like,
very well
you're playing this role. And then there's another parallel universe or reality where I'm more attached to the Andromedans, and you're more attached to the Pleiadians or whatever, right? So there's these star seeds. Yes, you're connected to this particular species that has a particular characteristic. So like what was the one that I said?
Arcturians.
Arcturians are like the
protectors.
Yeah.
Protectors, and from what I understood, like they love like analytics.
It's like truth tellers, analytics, really intense. Like information, people, but also like the protectors of the universe.
Okay.
Like that's like my perception. I wanted to backtrack and say that I worked with someone incredible. Her name is Debbie Solaris, and she is famous Akashic record reader. And I actually met her. We became friends through different people when I was living in Colorado. And she actually ended up becoming one of my clients for my marketing agency. And her entire experience is actually kind of similar to what we're talking about now. And now that I'm thinking of it, was her story. She worked for the government as like an inspector. Like, she was like in her late 50s, like had a very normal life. Her parents worked for the Navy, like just very normal. And then one day in a dream had like ET experience, and was in her story is about how she was taken aboard a ship, and they like showed her all these different things, and like gave her the gift of reading like the Akashic records and like all these different things. And so it seems super out there, but this is like old news to her. She's like been in the game for a while, but I learned all about the different starseeds from working with her. And she has like an incredible course actually that will teach you all about this stuff. But the takeaway from this is not to get too in the weeds with this nerdy alien information, is just what you experienced after having that download. So it's like in a different level of consciousness. Were you asleep dreaming?
No.
Or you said you were in a meditation?
I was just meditating.
Okay.
I was just in this like.
So theta.
Yeah.
You were in theta.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, most likely.
I was just in a very calm state, and just there was no noise, no thought at that point, and then this download came through, and I'm familiar with those downloads in regards, maybe not like a face of an alien or something like that, but certainly like a vision or a thought or like the solution to something that I've been, working on, whatever it may be. But yeah, those things come up. It's just like no difference.
What is your takeaway from that? when you had that like next day
So there's something more. Like there's something more to explore. Like it sent me down a rabbit hole to explore. And so like there was a season where like I just went deep into the weeds of understanding the different star seeds and what Arcturians are. And frankly, I probably forgot 90% of it all. But
No, I think it's like a capstone moment on a spiritual journey. It's,
Yeah,
you
it
go
is.
down the star seed.
and it's like
rabbit hole.
talking about it is like, you know, reintroducing like, oh, I need to revisit this. Like I need to go back at it with a different perspective and a different intention. And I'm interested in like connecting with somebody who can channel that and like dive deeper into what is that? Maybe there is something there.
Yeah.
And I think it just shows connection to other people, like when you get these downloads, and then it kind of guidance to your purpose. Why we shouldn't be afraid of downloads. We shouldn't be afraid of dreams, feelings, intuition, because it's a guidance system that we are all ignoring.
Yeah.
So true.
Yes.
Signs are there.
I truly believe and know this from everything that I've read and listened to and been down all my journeys, that we close down our consciousness as human beings because our consciousness is outside of us. It is not in our brain. We literally get downloads. That's why our eyes are made the way they are. We choose to see in a 3D field, but we really have like a holographic ability to see every time in space, but we shut that all down because we're not teaching, we're not building this into our community, that our consciousness is simply downloaded from everybody else's memories, feelings, emotions, and whatever
It's like a radio show.
whatever you're tuned into. I mean, I'm sure everybody's heard about this. Then that's what your reality starts to become. And so when I go to sleep at night and I close my eyes, sometimes I'm tossing and turning because I have a lot of stuff on my mind, but then I know exactly when I'm going to start to fall asleep because I start having it's like pictures that are going through my mind or my eyes. I can see them. It's in my eyes when my eyes are closed really fast of people's faces and like things that I've done in the past or people I've seen or somebody who I need to help. And then it goes away because then I go out of that wavelength. And
It's like you're crossing over some little bridge or something.
yeah, and I fall asleep. But I always know I'm like, okay, I'm going to fall asleep now because my mind is processing all of that, everything that I didn't focus on in reality today. And it's pulling everything in front of me that it wanted me to see, but I was too busy to see it. And then I can go into sleep. And interesting, we're talking about dreams. This last night, I had a really weird dream. And I got up and I told my husband, I said, I had an ongoing dream last night. And I don't usually wake up and remember a lot of my dreams, but it was like one of those frustrating dreams where like I kept switching houses and trying to get away from the monsters that were like following us around. Mm-hmm. And I was like always trying to find a weapon to make sure that my family was safe. And then these kids that I had. So like my whole thing lately has been saving the children. And it was all about these kids that I was saving from this monster that was trying to come into these.
Oh, so I got chills.
Yeah. And so then it's like, okay, to me, then I sit there and ask myself, what was that about? For me, it's keeping my family, my children safe, keeping the children safe. There's a lot of monsters right now outside. If you look at what's going on, and how do you keep your reality safe from all of that? And don't let those observations come into you.
Well, and I think sometimes we look at something literally and then interpret it ourselves when we should maybe not. Yeah, look it up and see zoom out and just see another perspective that you can be getting, because there may be other meaning to that. Like people not understanding that this life is spiritual, like having to deal with other people. You're dealing with their spirit, not their being, really. So whatever their mentality is, their consciousness is, and even though it's a mass consciousness that we're all connected to, their mentality and their spirit is going to affect you or not affect you. And there are monitoring spirits, all kinds of things out in the world that are going to try and, block us in our life. And like you can look it up on YouTube, and it comes at a certain time during the night. And so you could be having downloads to guide you in your own life that you need to protect your family and your home, right? Because there can be spirits trying to affect that. And it can be beyond what you think is going on in your focus of what you're trying to do in your life.
Yes.
And we don't know that. And so we're not trying to defend or protect against spirits we don't see. Yeah.
I just had a vision as she was talking, much like you were talking about. And it's like to think about all this, like the great mind, the one consciousness, all that is. And we are just reflections of different aspects of that consciousness. So you're representing something within me, which is actually within the whole, but I'm interpreting it through my lens. Your aspect of my consciousness, that is this versus that. You're like, we're all reflections of an aspect of us that is either we're aware of or we're not aware of.
And we can tap in if we're quiet enough and observe, we can tap into that powerful ability to look at all the different reflections.
Yeah. And not judge, but observe. And like, go ahead.
I think we have to be willing to go deeper than just a literal meaning of what we're observing. Like, we're all not doing that because we're not being told that it's a way to guide us in our life and make our life maybe easier, to not think that we're just all on our own trying to figure things out and we're not having a purpose, not having a guidance system that's already there for everybody. We're just not all tapping into it because we're being programmed by movies that all this stuff is
Poisoned by food.
And we'll be thought to be crazy if we even think it's important or discuss it.
Have any of you experienced lucid dreaming?
Yes.
Okay. So could you describe what that was like?
Well, it's like when you go to bed like you're going to sleep. This is my experience.
Yeah.
And then in the dream that you begin having, you realize that you're awake. In the dream.
Yes.
Even though you're like conscious that you are dreaming.
And you're able to manipulate things.
Yes.
And make decisions consciously.
Yes.
In the dream.
Yes.
Okay. So that's where I'm like, I thought about this with like lucid dreaming, and it's like this.
I just bought a book on this.
This like
Here's
here.
the question.
Hold on,
Is this
here.
like astral projecting or no?
Different.
Okay.
I think they're different.
I don't know, but what I'm
Yeah, maybe they're not.
what I'm getting to here is that, you know, what are we beyond this physical plane, right? We're spirits, and then beyond that, we're the whole and the one and all that, right? So you get down to what we are is dreaming that we are limited beings on this three-dimensional earth that have these capacities, these limitations, these powers, these whatever.
I think that is driven by this ego.
So what I'm saying is that this is lucid dreaming right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like the
But
more
what
aware
is-
you are,
agree.
right?
But what is driven by the ego? What are you saying is driven by the ego? That we have control?
That one, yes. That one we control. One, we are not connected. We are one single being that has nothing to do with what you're doing or you're doing or you're doing.
Why it goes deeper than what we're trying to interpret literally or by ego, right?
And I would love for the listeners, if anybody knows this actually,
that we control.
I know is like, where did the ego come from? Because it's doing something to protect the physical body. Is it a protection mechanism so that you stay inside the 3D reality, inside the gravity? So then where did it come from?
Well, and it's even in the movie, The Matrix, where there's a scene with Neo saying he wants to know he controls everything, but why do you need to control everything? All we want is love in this life, right? All of us. Why are you trying to control everything? But I mean, I forget all the meaning. You know more about The Matrix.
That'll be an entire 3-part series.
Things. But we all have this desire to control, have the feeling that we control everything because then we know what's going to happen.
Actually know
we can't control anything.
I know the answer to this. So
Right.
the reason why most people want to control things is because that's where they feel safe.
Yeah.
And they stay within their box, within your vibration, where your energy level has been trained since a child to be tuned into. And so when you're talking about this, if you're listening and it's making you uncomfortable, ask yourself, what is making you uncomfortable? You know, like start to get in touch with some of these questions of what is the reality that I'm building for myself? And if you don't like what you have, if you're living in fear, if you're living in, something that just doesn't serve you, then you have the ability to change it. And there's a lot of communities like us. That's why we're here to talk about these things. But like I found a place called Luminous Kids, and they focus on helping children under the age of 13 tap into their powers, which is they really are focused on this blindfolding kids and them being able to see what's going on around them while they're blindfolded. So it's like clairvoyancy a little bit, I guess. But there's a lot of stuff going on like this. You just have to go and look for it. So like I put my son in it. So I'll tell you guys all about it after we're done with the training. And he's like, I get to go to my metaverse training. He's like super excited. And so when you start talking about this and normalizing it with our children, it's then going to get even more and more powerful as they grow up knowing about these things.
It's no longer needs to be hidden.
Right.
And there's a level of normalcy that you're able to have with these kinds of conversations. And then so one big theme, and even why I feel okay talking about this stuff more and more, is because of how like unusual and like oddball I always felt growing up. I'd be like, and I was like very well liked. I'm like a very outgoing, lighthearted person. Like I've always had a little group of friends. Like I've always, was like captain of the soccer team. Like I was always like in it, but not in it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was like, and like, that's why I also always talk about being neurodivergent, is that's like a very big sign of it is like when you're masking. So it's like, I'm very good, my like past self, to feel safe and normal. Because when you're a kid, fitting in is safety. Mm-hmm. Being able to, especially now with how bad like bullying is and everything with like, the cyber aspect of things. But like, so it wasn't that I was like consciously like I'm bad and wrong. It was like, I don't know anyone else that's like this. And so I need to assimilate to what's around me so that I can be safe in this environment. And so I think that the more we have these conversations, the more we can find communities for kids who are younger or, whatever age, to create that level of normalcy. And then also that you don't have to even, because the bad part about having a mask is that you wear it for so long and then you don't know who you are anymore. And then when you have to go through this whole exhausting process of taking it off. And so it's like, okay, what if we bypass that whole thing, create this normalcy around these conversations, empower kids for these different gifts? It doesn't have to be this woo-woo crazy thing. There's so much science that is linked now to intuition and like all these different, synchronicities and things like that. And so I think
it's weird. What it is it's science. It's not woo anymore.
Yeah.
It is science. There's more and more stuff coming out. And if you read, I just finished the book, The Field. Amazing. Highly, highly recommended. But if you look at all of what the physicists, the biologists, what they've done and what they've proved, it's not in mainstream. But if you go and look for this stuff, it is proven. And why you have to ask yourself, why are people holding this back from the general population?
Because it's powerful and we can live our lives in a better way and a happier way and a goal-oriented way, not being afraid that we can accomplish whatever we want because we're guided and we have purpose, all of us.
And when politics, government, big corporations have your attention, that is where the reality goes. So when you're paying attention to something, and then all of a sudden, this will become your reality. And the more people paying attention to something, the more this will become a reality for a larger group of people. Then you've got all the power. So take your power back, put your attention on what's going to make your family and your life free and equitable, and then give that back to your community and start talking about it. That's why we're talking about this today. We're giving it back to you so that you can realize your dreams, your insights, your intuitions, your visions during the day, they mean something. And it's just you're seeing different timelines, and pay attention to it and go and do the research.
And remember that the placing you in fear is a way to control you. So if you don't want that, don't.
You want to be free.
Right.
We innately have two needs, and it's love, like you said. We all want love ourselves, love others. We want to be worthy. And it's freedom is the other thing. Nobody wants to be in a mental jail for their whole life. Nobody wants to be, told where to put their energy and, how to show up every day. But we give our power away, and we are doing that. The majority of us are trapped inside our own mind and being
Belief system.
Yeah, being controlled by it.
Program belief system, yeah.
Yeah, so start to choose what do you want.
Or even before making any big choice or being like, what does anything mean? Is just get curious.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. I mean, like when I first started having these like insane dreams, I was like, I'm just going to write this in a journal and we're just going to keep it in there for a while. I'm not going to fucking tell anyone about this. And then slowly but surely, I started to attract the right people who are beginning to initiate me into conversations where it was like, oh, I can talk about this. And it's like not a big deal. And now I have like a little friend group. Whenever I have my crazy dreams, I like send them a text about it. And they're like, another prophetic Christina dream, like it's, or whatever. And it's totally normal, and it's like I have the support of them being like, oh, that's so cool. What do you think that means? Or like, oh, wow, I had this other dream the other day, or this crazy thing happened to me. Like, and it changes, it allows you to relax into who you truly are. And when you become a beacon of like, I own who I am, whatever that is, you give other people permission. And the more permission that we all have to fully show up as ourselves, I truly believe the world would be a better place in so many ways.
Well, it brings me, I don't know why when you were talking about this, I have to say it, it's kind of out there. But so when I decided to get my degree in psychology, one of the reasons why I did was I loved schizophrenia. It like made me, I wanted to learn more and more about it because it was so like when I was reading about it and learning about it, I'm like, this is so cool. Like somebody can basically go into their mind and become different people and act out different things. Right. And it like really intrigued me.
Yes.
Okay. And then they end up in a mental hospital. Right. And you're sitting there thinking like as a young student, I was like, this is so weird. Like these people are actually like getting to live different lives. Yeah. Like, why are they being locked up in a mental hospital? This is like something cool. Like, we need to all be able to do this and have different identities. Why do we have to have this one identity? Why can't I be Frank over here, Christina over here, Charles over there, and like explore and be open to, like you said, asking questions of like, how would it feel to be this person?
Well, it's exploring different avenues of your psyche.
Yes.
And like trying on different flavors of it. But where it gets out of hand is, I mean, there's like a whole conversation you can have about schizophrenia and like the way that currently there is not enough information and research like to properly support people living with that condition who have like actual struggles. And a lot of it is like people just don't know. And so that's why they're thrown into a mental institution and heavily medicated because there's not, they don't know how to do it.
And I don't think it is to me now knowing what I know and being, it's not a mental like issue. Yeah. It's actually they're very in tuned with what is going on in the whole world and the consciousness of one. And they don't really, because of the way their mind works, it's so open, they're actually just getting downloads.
And I think what we have to think about in terms of all these movies, like The Matrix, Lucy, like whatever movie has any schizophrenic character in it, like we're being sent a message, people, like we have to look into it further that this is what life is.
Yes.
And we're being kind of told, like with the schizophrenic movies, that it's a negative thing. You're going to be put into a mental institution if you think you can embody someone instantly, which is what anyone would want. If you want to embody a personality, who wouldn't want to embody that now, right? Like the skinny person, the successful person, who wouldn't want to embody a certain kind of character now? They make it seem negative and this will happen to you. So then we're afraid of changing who we are. We're afraid of looking further into what life is about and how we should be thinking, like the Matrix is trying to show us, or Lucy is trying to show us, that we're all one. All these things, we're just made to believe that this should not be something we think is real or can be possible, and we shouldn't gravitate toward it.
And nobody wants to talk about it. And then if you start talking about it, people are like, oh, she doesn't know what she's saying, or she's crazy, or whatever. Okay, fine. Then maybe ask yourself why you think I'm crazy.
Well, and I think the purpose of this conversation today is to explore like the unknown and explore like intuition and different ideas that aren't mainstream. That's really the kind of the purpose of this entire podcast. And I think, is there any other dream related or symbolism things that we want to share before we close out today?
I think I want to close out with something that you hit on, was the unknown. It's like, that is reality. Like the unknown is complete. Like that is reality. Everything outside of that is you think you know, and going back to the whole Pono thing where it's like 15 bits out of 15 million that we process and take in, and we think we know what's going on, what's orchestrating this, what's happening, and what's real and what's not. And it's venturing into the unknown. And you can do that through meditation. You can do that through really any type of practice that puts you into the now, where you're not thinking, you're.
Have you ever seen, maybe because you have kids or just an adult child like me, there's the Lego movie.
Yeah, love that.
So right as you were talking about that, my favorite character, of course, is the main girl who's like, or one of the girls who's like called a master builder. Yeah. And there's specifically a scene where they're like falling out of the sky, and she's just like summoning all these different parts and different things to like build their aircraft so that they can like fly and take off in that moment. And she doesn't even sweat it, because it's like she's trusted that skill set of like, I can create any solution in any situation in the unknown. And so it's an incredible metaphor to bring into, say, this new year even, of I am practicing being safe in the unknown because I have all the answers within me. And even if I don't know in that exact moment, I trust that exactly when I need it, it's going to come to me. And then if you don't have to do this dramatically. Like you could literally just be like in simple tasks, or like, I'm going into a meeting that I'm an expert in. I don't know exactly what I'm going to say, but I'm going to practice like trusting myself.
Yeah.
And it's like a trust fall with yourself in these little micro moments. And you're like, holy shit, I did 10 times better than I would have if I had this like long script and like, thing that I'm supposed to do. And then, slowly but surely, you're all of a sudden, you're the master builder. Every single day is like this new creation, and you're just like winging it, but you're not. And I think that to me is the practice of being comfortable and safe in creating internal safety in being in those unknown spaces.
Yeah.
Fair?
I love it. It's absolutely right. I think the other thing too is, if this resonates with you, make sure you like find us, comment on us, whatever, like we're part of your community. And
we want to hear stories too. If you have stories that relate to this, reach out. I think it's a great place to start, and just other people have we have resources, or you have resources.
Yeah, we can,
be a guest on here.
Yeah, it's really important to know that the power of community, being able to have these conversations, being supported, being safe in that unknown space. And so we're here for you, and we want you to have sweet dreams.
Get those Z's.
Awesome.